I've been out here for over a year now. I'm trying not to look right into the sun. There's some dramatic cross lighting, huh? Yeah, it's just too nice to be sitting in the bus right now. So, okay, this is part two. I've been out here over a year now on the property. I'm out in West Texas, near El Paso. You could be 100 miles in any direction and it looks about the same. We're pretty close to the Mexican border here. Just for reference, land out here is right around $500 an acre. At least that's what I paid for it. It's probably not worth that much, but you know how that goes. Not very far from here, I have seen people actually farming, but that's if they have irrigation. Cotton, I think, is one of the crops near here. The vegetation, you know, what is here actually is growing fairly well. It's a lot more vegetation than I would have expected. If you like mesquite and sage and cactuses, and I'm not sure what the bigger trees are, but there's kind of a natural creek bed area that runs near here that overflows in the monsoons. So my new place, my new site that I'm parked in is kind of above that a little bit. So it's not as completely desolate as you might think. Nearly daily I see rabbits. Summertime I probably saw a snake once a month or so. I had a very large rattlesnake pass right past, like basically where I'm at now. One morning I looked out and I was within 15 feet of it. And we kind of looked at each other and I backed off, and then it slowly worked its way to the bush, and that gave me time to go get the camera, and I got sort of video, a little bit of it. It was pretty good size. But that's the only one of that size that I've seen. I've also seen some, think if it was a garter snake or something, but it was more of a non-poisonous rat-eating type of snake, rodent. Seen a couple of them pretty close to here, and I remember seeing two snakes that had no rattles, and then the last one definitely had a rattle. So you see it just often enough where you have to remind yourself to look where you're stepping, which is always a good idea anyway. Let me go back to the beginning. I'm not from the area originally. I grew up in Canada, moved to the U.S. when I was 13, served with the U.S. Navy for 9 years, moved around a lot. At some point, I decided to move to Texas on my motorcycle because I have never lived here before, and so I thought that was a good idea to start somewhere fresh again. After being in the military, you get used to moving every 3 years, and it's pretty hard to sit still when it comes up to 3 years. So, I moved to Austin. Had no real specific contacts there. Just kind of decided, well, there was a company I knew about that was there that I got a job with doing website tech support. Did well enough, but I just never felt like that was really maybe the best job for me. So I looked around a little bit. Typical, 6 months, you move again kind of thing. But I stayed in Austin for 4 years. And the job I ended up doing in Austin I liked. I was doing well. I stayed there for 3 years. Finally, it was a career type job where I was making retirement money and benefits and possibly looking at advancement. But Austin has a lot of humidity and I was allergic to just about everything. So I'm like, man, I got to find a better place. So somewhere around the same time, I started thinking, well, every 3 years I move and I start over. And it'll be a new job and a new place, and I end up not having a lot of money, so I get rid of a lot of stuff so I can afford to move what I have left. And then I start over. And so I thought, well, let me find one place that I can live that I like well enough that I will either stay there or I can come back to. So even if I do decide just to take off and go run amok for a while, I could have a place to come back to. So I started looking at that, and I knew somebody one time who had bought property off of eBay. And it was one of those owner financed kind of places or something, or you make a couple $100 a month payment, and then eventually you get the deed to the place. And so I knew that existed. And I was originally looking in New Mexico. I drove through New Mexico on the way to Texas. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. I liked it. I'd spent 3 years in the Mojave Desert of California. I was stationed there at a Navy base, weapons test center. And I liked the desert. Dry, low humidity. I could deal with the heat if it wasn't too humid. And I knew I'd have less allergy problems than everybody when they get old. They move to Arizona for kind of the same reason, I guess. So I thought, okay, that'd be all right. So that's how I got here. My plan was, initially, I bought the property sight unseen. I saw pictures, but I knew enough about the desert that it wasn't going to matter too much where exactly I was, because it was all going to be about the same. And I actually really liked this place. So, and if I would have been 10 miles either way, it would have been the same anyway. It's kind of what you make of it, but I'm liking it actually more than I thought I would. I thought I'd go find a place that, was inexpensive, and then I would just set it up how I wanted, but I didn't really expect to like it as much as I do. So that's been kind of a nice surprise. There's some days where it's really windy and the dust is blowing and it's not as much fun, but you walk out at night, and we're at 4,000 feet here, so you see the stars like you would just not believe. So that part's pretty cool. So my plan when I first put the money down on the property was that I would just make payments, and then by the time I got to retirement age, it would be paid for, and then I would figure something out then. Well, after 3 or 4 years in Austin, I was thinking, well, my allergies aren't getting any better. I don't really enjoy Austin. I didn't get into any of the Austin things that people do, the music and going out for barbecue all the time, and wasn't really my thing. So since I was allergic to everything, I tended to stay in my apartment and sit close to the air conditioning. So I'm like, that's not the way I like to live. So I started coming out here once or twice a year, and I'd just camp and then go back and spend a week out here or something. And I finally got to thinking, it's like, well, I work for the post office. They have facilities everywhere. So I was talking to the guy at work, and I was trying to get transferred to the vehicle maintenance facility in El Paso, which is what I was doing in Austin. And it would have been just a drop-in kind of a thing where I was going to be working on the same trucks, doing the same job, just in a different location. And I was trained and qualified and knew what I was doing for a change. So this would have been a great move. And the money I was making at that job was good. And if I could have moved out to here with that money, I would have been set. I probably could have had the land paid off in 5 or 6 years. So that was the dream. Waited almost a year. That position never came open. We kept thinking it was going to come open. Never did. So I decided I'd take a pay cut, go to another facility in El Paso, do a basic warehouse, mail processing facility job, and then I'd get to live out here. And it almost worked out such that my cost of living with the land payment was less than my rent was in Austin. So even though I was making less money, it actually worked out pretty good. The problem was I'm 100 miles from that facility here each way. So I was racking up some pretty good miles on the truck and then the motorcycle. So that part not so good. Well, a few months ago I got transferred closer to here. And now I'm only 50 miles from work, so that's a whole lot simpler, a lot easier ride. I've been riding the motorcycle every day now for a couple weeks, I guess, and it's much closer. It's 100 miles one way is just too much on the motorcycle, but 50 you don't feel so bad. So that's working out pretty good. I bought the school bus to bring out here. I probably again paid too much money for it, but I wanted one that I knew would get me out here. So I bought that in San Antonio when I lived in Austin. It just happened to be where it was at. And I drove it out here. And then it really hasn't moved since I brought it out here, except for, a few hundred feet from where it was flooding up to the higher ground. But it started right up. I needed to charge it, jump it a little bit, but it's a good enough bus. Had some ideas, different things I wanted to do with it. And then I went back and forth, and that's been a lot of my problem this first year, is I had some ideas, and then either I wouldn't have enough money to do it, didn't have enough time to do it, got scared of how much work it was going to be, so I didn't do it. And so realistically, at the end of a year, I haven't got a whole lot to show for the first year, except for the experience of having been out here. And that's worth something, I guess, because now that I have a better feeling for how cold it is or how cold it really isn't, I have a better understanding of what do I really need to do to survive the next 3 or 4 years. So my working plan for right now, I'm going to lower the bus closer to the ground. And that's basically just going to be, I'm going to jack it up, dig out underneath the tires, and then get it down closer to the ground. And then I'm going to skirt around the bus, kind of like how you skirt a trailer house, and that'll keep the air from getting under the bus, which in the winter will make a huge difference. School bus is not very well insulated. The floor is basically thin metal with a little bit of rubber coating on it, but no insulation. So my plan for now, lower the bus, skirt the bus, then probably build something small, and I haven't exactly decided what yet. I was looking at building a little shed next to me here. Current dimensions 12 by 24. That was going to be like a mini workshop, not a garage, but more of a tinker space where I could do soldering and wiring projects, and also put the 3D printer and a few things like that. So that may happen, may change. A lot of things are still flexible. But I need more space for the interim. All right, so what's going to happen is build something. Get stuff out of the bus, because right now the bus is pretty full and it's hard to do anything. Once I got something built, move most of the stuff that's in the way out of the bus into the shed. Then I'm going to do a sort of bus conversion. Since I'm not planning on driving this bus ever again, in a way it was overkill to buy one. I mean, I spent $4,000 on the bus, so if I was going to make a driving bus conversion, this would have been a good bus for that. But it's kind of overkill if it's never going to drive again. Alright, so that was kind of a waste, but whatever. Legs are going to sleep. So my plan is to do a different kind of a bus conversion. I'm already talking about building the shed that's going to be on the other side of the bus, which will be for the washer and dryer. And I'm also going to put a shower and a sink out there. Up until now, I've never had a permanent shower out here. What I've always done is I had a little electric pump that I could drop a feed into a water jug or a bucket. And so during the winter, I would fill up the bucket with warm water. I'd heat the water up on the stove, little propane stove. And then I'd fire up the little pump and it would spray out of a sink sprayer. And then that's how I took a shower. I had a little kind of a plastic tub I'd stand in, rigged up a shower curtain, fire up the pump, spray myself off, take a pretty good shower, 3 or 4 gallons, a little less usually. And it worked out well enough. But it was always in the way, so then when I was done, I would break it down and move it out of the way. And so the next time I decided to take a shower, I'd have to set it up again. And that's kind of been the way things have been out here. even when I had the outside shower, I would still break it down because I was worried that the sun would really mess up the plastics. And that's a real issue out here is the sun is just brutal on anything plastic or wood for that matter. So you don't just want to leave something unprotected outside. All right. So since I'm planning on putting the shower and the washer and dryer in a little shed outside, I don't really need to do plumbing in the bus. Since I'm going to have a sink where the shower is, I probably will just wash dishes out there and then just have all the plumbing in one spot. I've already got a much better pump now. It's an on-demand pump like you use in an RV, so when you open up a tap, the pump starts running. It gives you pretty good pressure. You shut the tap, the pressure builds up, the pump shuts off. They're about $30, $40 a piece. It's not, really expensive. So that part is pretty much taken care of. The water system that I'm designing is just going to be an easier way of setting up tanks, and I'm setting it up with a lot of capacity, so as I build tanks or buy tanks, I'll have lots of capacity. And then also looking at setting up eave troughs off of any roofs that I build, and I can catch rainwater. Now, you don't think about a lot of rain out here, but during the summer we have about a month of monsoon season, which totally caught me off guard the first year. You get typically more than an inch of rain in an hour almost every day for about a month. It's insane how much rain comes down here, which explains why there's so much vegetation. And then after the rainy season, it kind of dries up again. So, with that in mind, I've been thinking about and planning different tank and water catching systems. I just never got around to actually committing very much to one yet. So that's probably the biggest thing for this year. I'll get the water system set up. I'll at least start on a bus conversion where it'll actually be a lot nicer inside. Right now, it's still, I took the seats out and that's basically it. And for the first year, I didn't have any storage out here, and I didn't want to go spend money on putting stuff in storage, because when you put things in storage, you just leave them there, and you just keep paying for the same things over and over again. So I decided not to do that. But the whole back half of the bus is basically storage, and the front half is more storage, and there's a little bit of room that I can move around, and that's about it. So, water system, some kind of a shed. I don't know if you can see him or not, but right behind me, the rabbit just walked right up, didn't even see me. Hey there, little guy. How cool is that, right? You here to say hi? Just kind of fun, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's him right in the frame. Anyway. I've had a bunch of times where they'll walk almost right up to you if you're being fairly quiet. They just don't know I'm a threat, don't think I'm a threat. And there he goes. Or also, I think around here, yeah, I know he's kind of running around a little bit. Since they're so low, if you're not making very much noise, they'll just be bebopping from bush to bush and not realize how close they are to you, and then all of a sudden they stop and they look around. But since I work during the day, I'm not here most of the time. They got the run of the place. I see tracks all over the place, right up to the door of the bus sometimes. That's just kind of fun. So, yeah, to summarize, I think the plan for the next 12 months, get myself water storage capacity. We'll start off in the hundreds of gallons, and I think by the time I'm done, I'll have in the thousands of gallons. And it'll be buy or build one or two at a time until I have enough. Rough numbers, if I figure, let's see, what did I come up with? 5,000 gallons would give me 100 gallons a week. I'm not using 100 gallons a week right now. All right. And as I build more roof area, sheds and so on, that gives me more capacity to catch rainwater. And the amount of rain that I see in monsoon season, eventually I'll be at the point where I don't have to haul water anymore because I'll be able to catch enough off of the roofs. So that's the goal. So that's the water system. And then we'll have pumping capability and water plumbing to shower, sink, washing machine. For power, I'm using solar with generator for backup. I haven't committed to wind yet. I do have a book about wind, building your own wind turbines. The wind out here is so strong when it blows that I'm actually afraid to build a turbine because the wind is that strong. It is, I mean, it's nearly hurricane force winds when it blows. It is really amazing how strong the wind can be out here. So I probably eventually will build some wind turbine or more than one. But for now, I'm not as scared of solar. So I kind of like that. So that's power. I'm running solar. I'm not connected to the grid. Internet, I don't have cell phone coverage out here. My carrier doesn't have coverage. Some other people do have coverage out here, so it's available. And I think sometimes my phone would work in emergency mode, so if I really needed some help, but I don't typically worry about that too much out here. I try not to cut my leg off and go with that. The bus conversion, my plan is to lower the bus, get it closer to the ground, and then put skirting around the bus. That'll keep the cold air from blowing under the bus, and that'll keep the floor a lot more comfortable. I'm going to build a little shed that'll give me room to move stuff out of the bus. Short term, just to get space available in the bus that I can start a conversion. And I think if I convert it in zones, I don't currently sleep in the bus because I've got that little camper shell. I've been sleeping in that all winter, and it worked out really well. And then I'll kind of evaluate that. My work shift is different now, and so it's working better than it was when I first came out here. The first summer I was here, I worked afternoon, evening shift. It was pretty late at night when I got home, and then I had to sleep into the morning, and the sun shining in would just roast me. Now I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, so that's actually working out really good. It's just at the point now that when I'm leaving for work, it's starting to get light, so that's working really well. So it's completely different than it was the first year. But yeah, the bus conversion, I think my plan really is I'm going to keep the bus for storage in the back and an office in the front. And then as I get things built, I'll live less and less in the bus. But I think I'll keep it for an office, to keep the computers and stuff in there. I want to build a workshop that I can do things like set up my 3D printer and kind of just tinkering projects, fun hobby kind of stuff. It's been interesting being out here for a year already. The time, and sometimes it's like, oh my God, well, my whole life I've been looking to the next place, the next adventure. And I have to remind myself sometimes that I live here. This is land that I'm paying for. I'm probably going to be here like forever, you know. So that's kind of hard to get used to for me because I've always been, I've always saved my boxes for the next move. Yeah, thanks for joining me on the journey. It's fun seeing that people are watching the videos that I'm making. It's still kind of a new experience for me that people want to see what I'm doing, but um, I do appreciate the people who take the time to leave comments and ask questions. And there's enough different things that I'm doing that, not everything is going to be something that you want to see, but, maybe the next one will be. I've got videos about the motorcycle, videos about the truck, some of the projects I do. Sometimes I do some MIG welding. I'm not a master at anything, but I have, kind of, how does that saying go? Jack of all trades and master of none. That's pretty close, I guess. But, if there's anything that you like seeing, drop a comment and say, you like this, you don't like that, so I have kind of an idea what people like. But so far it's been so random anyway, and I still get new subscribers all the time, which, again, I'm just kind of amazed, but thank you, And I can't commit to saying that I'm going to upload a video every week. I shoot videos nearly daily of something. And then as I get time, I edit them, and then I sporadically put them online again when I have time. So, if you do like them, subscribe. There's a little notify bell icon next to the subscribe button, so when you click on the subscribe, click on notify if you want to be reminded. But yeah, my goal is to upload videos as often as I can, several a month for sure. And even though I haven't yet made my first dollar on YouTube, the growth that I've seen in this last year is encouraging me to keep doing it and to try to do better videos and more often. And my expectation is probably by the end of the second year out here, I'll be at a position where I'm actually making some money off of the videos, which, when that happens, definitely thank you to everybody who does watch. So with that in mind, if you do see something you like, in addition to commenting and subscribing, please feel free to share it with your friends on YouTube or wherever you share your videos, and help me grow the channel to a point where it's, maybe making enough money that I can put more time into it. Sun is setting, end of another perfect day out here. A day like today reminds me of why I moved out here in the first place. At the moment, it is about dead calm, except for the bug that tries to fly in my nose. The sun is setting. It's like the perfect temperature. It's probably about 70 degrees right now. No humidity. Just the tiniest amount of clouds, and the sun is just about to set. I don't hear anything. I don't hear the road. I don't hear the traffic. I don't hear my neighbors. I've got one neighbor that I can't quite see in that direction. I've got a family in this direction. I think there's several people living on the same property now. Husband and wife and mother-in-law and somebody else or something like that, right? But I really can't see them most of the time. They're just far enough away. And then I got nobody this way. And I got really nobody visible this way, except there's a roof over there, but I don't think anybody lives there. And there's a motorhome over there that I've never seen anybody in. So, if you like the quiet, now, granted, it's not always like this. That's, the way it is out here. There's days where the wind is just deafening, and the bus rocks in the wind, and the dust comes in through the windows. But it really does make you appreciate the day like today. It's pretty freaking awesome out here. Yeah, sometimes people ask what it's like out here. You know, do I miss cable TV? No. I've always liked camping, and until now, this has been camping. And I think that's probably why I haven't been in a huge hurry to build something. It's just almost good enough for me. You know, in the winter I could run a propane heater and keep it warm enough, but that's because it's me. You know, I was military and I grew up in Canada, so if I can keep it above freezing, that's pretty much good enough. You know, I'll put on a sweater and some slippers and not worry about it so much. But every little thing I do that makes it just a little bit better is time well spent. So I think this year having a permanent water system, upgrading the solar, and starting the bus conversion will just make everything just a little bit better. And I probably got minimum 6 years left to work before I retire. That's at the earliest retirement. And that's kind of the plan, is between now and then get things good enough that I can live in them and not have to spend a lot of money fixing and upgrading after that. So that's kind of the track we're on. I guess I got started late in life, so I'm now looking at how much time do I have left and what can I afford to do. Fortunately, I've always been kind of used to doing things on the cheap, so keeps it easy. Well, the sun is down. That's the end of a pretty good day. Well, thanks so much for watching. Obviously, with nobody watching, there wouldn't be any reason to make these. So I'm just amazed every time I look at the numbers. It's like, wow, people like it. You know, like, okay, I'll make another one. You know. Yeah. So I would say, if you see something you like, do leave a comment. Just you know, you like it, you don't like it. I'm not necessarily going to make something for everybody, but you know, if I find out that nobody likes this, maybe I won't make it anymore. But hopefully I give you a kind of an idea what it's like out here. You know, maybe it's not for you, maybe it is, you know, but compared to buying a little tiny house in town, I mean, land out here is about $500 an acre. And you get your head around that. It's like, wow, you know. And then you build, you know, you can check, you know, local zoning depending where you are. I don't necessarily want a bunch of people to move right out here, but there's land out here. And you may find something that you can work with. Maybe you buy an old RV trailer or a school bus and you live in it for a few years, and then you go build a house on it because you can afford to. Not a bad life. Get on first name with all your local jackrabbits. So far they're mostly Jack or Jill.